Hello, and welcome to Sublevel Zero by Sigtrap Games, published by Master Tronic. This is a game that I was looking forward to back in the summer. They said that, they gave it a tentative summer release date, midsummer, around, most people were thinking like July, August-ish. But as it turned out, they decided to delay it a bit for polish and things, and it just came out very recently, a few days ago, and I'm glad they delayed it, by the looks, because it has benefited from the polish, I feel. This is in a genre that has not really been explored for a long time. This is what's called a 6 degrees of freedom shooter. And pretty much the only really popular, very, memorable ones, I guess you could say, in this genre were quite a long time ago. They went by the name of Descent. And there were 3 of them, I believe. They're available now, actually, on GOG, and they work pretty well on modern systems if you get them from GOG. With some tweaking, perhaps. They show their age, they're quite old, but they're very good and quite unique, and honestly, there haven't really been very many games in this genre, well, not only since then, but just period. There haven't been many at all. But there are a couple on the horizon, and this is the first out. It also has the roguelite-ish kind of tag applied to it, in that there's permadeath and a lot of random generation. So let's just jump in. You have the choice of gunships to start with, but you'll only begin with the standard one unlocked. The rest of these require certain amounts of sort of specific challenges to actually be done in order to unlock them. I'm really interested in the pyro. I haven't got there yet. Anyway, I'm going to go with the Hulk because it has a higher inventory capacity and some higher starting health. So let's go. The game has a tutorial, but I've already played for a couple hours, so I'm just going to skip through this bit. And now welcome to Sublevel Zero. A fairly striking art style, you might notice first off. It is kind of voxel-ish looking. It actually reminds me a bit of Tower of Guns, only without the sort of cel-shaded overlay over the actual textures and things, so it's like if Tower of Guns had a kind of a smoother art style. And this is how 6 Degrees of Freedom works. It's called that because you can move in pretty much all directions in a 3-dimensional space, but not like a spaceship. You don't have the same kind of inertia like a spaceship does. You can just hover in place and move around. You can move up and down without actually having to look in that direction, and you can just rotate around on the spot like a lunatic. And these games have a bit of a history of being really confusing to navigate around. The original Descent was brain-bending in its level design, and of course with this being randomly generated, there's a good amount of that, but luckily they do have a pretty good map, which I'll show you right now. The map is a nice 3-dimensional map that can be zoomed all around and stuff, and it is a really good indication of where you actually are and helps you... Oh yeah, I forgot, map doesn't pause. It helps you not get lost. The map is actually really good, which is one of the first kind of early worries of a game like this. The map being just too complicated, but no, it works just fine. So you are going to be exploring this facility out in random bits of space, and trying to go through and survive, make your way all the way to sub-level 5, and eventually win. Piece together this flux core that allows you to sort of warp out and escape, but you will likely die many, many times along the way before you actually complete this objective for the first time. So the actual facility is full of all these automated defenses here, lots of turrets and drones and things, and there are actually a fairly significant number of enemy types, and they all have to do with the kind of area you're in. For instance, there are mining robots and things in these areas that have lava, and there are these crystalline caves. There's actually quite a bit of a variety in the areas you get to explore, which is very solid. So you have a choice of several different weapons on your ship at any given time, as well as a couple of other pieces of equipment. I'll have to show you that in a minute, because as you saw earlier, I have a missile. Going to the inventory screen and going to the map does not pause, so you can very easily be blown up. The game is actually pretty challenging because you can't take a lot of damage, and oh god, and you're heavily outnumbered. And of course the repair kits, like I just picked up there, are fairly few and far between, and they don't actually restore that much health, and they don't restore instantly either. As you can see here, the health slowly goes up, so yeah, you gotta be a bit careful. So this is your inventory screen. You can have 2 weapons, primary weapons of course, 2 secondary weapons which take different kinds of ammo, as well as an engine which determines the kind of damage you can do by ramming, as well as your general speed and your boost speed, and a hull, which determines your number of inventory slots, your maximum HP, and the different ammo capacities for the various types of ammunition. You have energy, bullets, and plasma for your main weapons, and you have darts, missiles, and advanced missiles for your secondary weapons, and you'll also get those repair kits. So there's actually a good amount of variety in what you'll be using for a while. And also there's a crafting system, mostly for actual weapons. And the way it works is, once you have a combination of weapons that can possibly be crafted, and you have the particular blueprint unlocked, which you'll just sort of get by playing the game, generally speaking, you can then find it in the craftables list. In this case, you pretty much always start with this one, because you'll always have an autocannon and a pulsar to start with, at least in the normal ships. And you can combine those into a minigun, but you've got to have the requisite number of these here. So this is sort of a currency. Are they nanites, I believe the game calls them? Let me check. You get them pretty much all the time by opening those little chests, as well as by killing everything. There they are, yep, nanites. And you will need a good number of them for crafting. The crafting seems to kind of go in tiers, basically. Like, the first time you combine a weapon, it usually costs around 750 nanites, but it's most likely you'll be able to actually combine that weapon again in a different way later on. And that one, I wasn't paying attention. That one will generally cost you even more, say around 2,000. Let's actually pay attention this time. Restart. But those nanites also serve a different purpose, which is a bit different. They're also almost like experience. There is no shop or anything like that, so they're pretty much currency only in the sense that, let's use the energy weapon to show you that, in the sense that they're used for crafting. But what they're also used for is, if you see up at the top above my health gauge, that little blue meter. It's not really very blue right now because I don't have very many nanites, but as you collect nanites, it fills up. And every time that meter reaches full, you will get what's called a nanocart, a nano cartridge. And whenever you complete a level with a one of those available, then you will be able to select what's basically like a perk. You'll be able to redeem the nanocart for a sort of permanent upgrade to that particular run. I say permanent, only in that run. Like, once you die, then it's over, and you have to restart. All the way back down at Sublevel Zero. But the carts can be anything from boosting certain types of damage at the expense of others, to making nanite pickups worth more, to giving you ammo regeneration of a certain type if you happen to be low. There are several different... Oh, that's a slower engine with a lot of ramming damage. I'm not really interested in that, to be honest. I like my mobility in this particular craft that's already slow enough as it is. And you'll likely only get around one cart-ish on the your first couple of runs until you get used to how the game works, because the levels get longer and longer, and you can only redeem those carts at the end of a level. And of course, the actual point of the level, also, yeah, there are these, by the way, give you a little bit of kind of tentative lore about what happened here. But you can pause that and read if you want. I've actually read this one before. There are several different ones. And the actual point is to get to the end of a given sublevel, which will have this big generator thing, which you need to blow up. And once you do that, you will get a piece of this advanced flux drive out of it, which is your ultimate goal for the game, to get it so you can escape this sort of subspace. And you gotta destroy all of those cores in order to actually get the drive. And one thing I've noticed is the farther down in sublevels you go, the more difficult the cores get. Of course, the levels get harder because the enemies get tougher, the levels get longer, there are more variety in terrain types and enemy types. But also, the fact that the cores themselves actually start to fight back against you. I've noticed the one on sublevel 1 will actually start to shoot lasers at you once you've damaged it sufficiently, and they get harder and harder to blow up, basically. And of course, you can expect the rooms that the cores are in to be very well defended. Now, this kind of gameplay can get a bit brain-bending sometimes. You've got, you know, things on the ceiling, which may or may not actually be the ceiling, now it's the floor. And you've got a lot of just very three-dimensional spaces to go around in, and the game does take very, very good advantage of that, even though the levels are obviously sort of randomly generated. They are that certain type of random generation that seems to be focused on sort of pre-made chunks that are then laid together in a random order, which I think is kind of necessary for a game like this, because level design in a 6 Degrees of Freedom shooter is actually really important. The original Descent games tell you that very gladly with their really confusing and maze-like level design. Their layouts are pretty impressive, actually, and you can get some really confusing levels, but it's a very endearing game. And again, if you've never actually played Descent, I would probably have to recommend them. They're excellent, and like I said, they're probably the best examples, well, the most classic examples of this genre, considering it's a genre that hasn't actually been explored very much since. Unfortunately, I've got to say. But this is the core. You just gotta blow it up. Oh, I'm out of energy ammo. That's not good. And the level design means that you're gonna have a lot of other places to go, like entrances that lead to various bits of, like, you know, holes in the ceiling, little bits of mined out kind of rock face and things like that, like an asteroid essentially. The level design is varied enough, I would say, and it has enough of that kind of 6 Degrees of Freedom flair, the idea that it's kind of maze-like, a bit confusing, a bit disorienting if you're not careful, things like that. Let's see here. Energy regen, bullet special. So this is the Nanocart that I was talking about. You get enough nanites, you can unlock a Nanocart. I think I'm going to get the bullet specialist. So my energy and plasma weapons are going to do less damage, but my bullet weapons are going to do more. And now we're on to Sublevel 1, where things will get significantly more difficult. I can't imagine how long the levels get around 4 and 5. I've never actually made it there so far, but I'm working on it. Don't make fun of me too much. I'm going to equip this flamethrower instead of this pulsar. And I could craft the minigun. I think it's a good idea because I'm not going to use the pulsar right now, and I've got that bullet upgrade, so let's show you that. Crafting, nice and simple, does it for you, spins your nanites, and there it is. So, first of all, I guess as a kind of general overview of the game, oh god! The graphic style is really cool. I love the glowy, kind of crazy, far future sci-fi-ish look that it has, and although right now you're seeing levels that look pretty similar, there is definitely more variety in terrain as you go on. You get, like I said, things like those kind of asteroid drilling areas where there's a lot of like lava and crazy rock formations. You also get these big crystal caverns and things, and I'm sure there's even more than that as you go further on. I'm just not good enough to make it that far yet. Ram. And you'll also very likely find that there's a good amount of loot variety, but I feel like there could be a bit more. You'll slowly unlock more as you go through, and there are a good number of weapons and things, but really a game like this kind of lives or dies on its level design, I suppose, and how satisfying and varied its arsenal is. And the weapons in this game are very satisfying, because they have really nice sound effects, there's just the right amount of screen shake, you know, there's a lot of feedback that the game gives you with the really nice glowy effects that all the weapons have and stuff, and again, the sounds are really quite good. There's a nice sort of bassy thump to the bullet weapons and things like that. It's satisfying to use them. Oh god. What's going on? There we go. I'm not sure why I'm glowing like this. I'm not 100% positive. I don't know if this is a bug or what. It's a bit strange looking, though. Was that a power-up, like a shield of some kind? I've never seen that before. Anyway, I think that though there is a good amount, some of the variety is going to take you a minute to achieve. It's going to take you multiple playthroughs to unlock some more blueprints and things to craft. But also, just as a whole, there's not a huge amount of weapon variety. What's there is good, but there's not like a massive amount. I'm kind of hoping that, you know, that they'll continue, that Sigtrap will continue to update the game, support it, and you slowly add more to it. It kind of reminds me of Ziggurat in a way, actually. I think this game is going to be kind of my new go-to, want to play something not too crazy, but want to have some fun game that Ziggurat used to be. And that it's easy to jump in, feel like you get something out of your runs and stuff like that, and the way that Ziggurat often worked is that the developers very much took a lot of post-release support to add a bunch of new content to the game as a whole. lava. And I feel like maybe Sigtrap might have that on their minds. I can't promise anything, obviously. I am not the devs. I have no idea what their plans for the future of this particular game are. But I have a feeling they're probably going to be adding some more to it as time goes on. And I know I like to wax lyrical about mod support a lot, but this is the kind of game where mod support could really sort of take it up to 11, you know, adding more, just everything, more ship types, more enemy types, more terrain, more weapons. I feel like mod support could really be a huge deal, but I know that's not the easiest thing to do. You know, the developers don't just find, does have mod support, yes or no, and change it to yes. It's not that simple, but it would be something I think to consider if it's possible. Due to the kind of modular-ish nature of the way the game seems to be designed, I would think that maybe it might be possible, but I honestly don't know. Something to think about, though, at least. So I've got to say I'm really enjoying myself with Sublevel Zero. It's a genre that you've just not seen enough of recently, and it has a lot of merit, especially with today's, you know, better technology where we can have really fun level design with some procedural generations, so it's not the same every time. We have really nice graphic engines to use. This game is made in Unity, by the way. And we just have less of a technological limitation that really hasn't been taken advantage of because there just haven't been enough games in this style for a long time. And I'm really impressed because Sigtrap was just like, you know what, screw it, it doesn't matter, we're making one anyway. And they decided, you know, what the heck, let's make one of these things. And they did a really good job. It's really very, very solid. I'm highly impressed. It's very actiony, you know, it's fast, it's kind of arcadey, but it's not so arcadey as to be like easy, you know, it's not an easy game, but it's got a good amount of weight and good feel to the combat. There's a lot of strategy in trying to avoid getting blown up horrendously like I just did. Lots of projectiles to dodge, lots of disorientating rooms and stuff to navigate yourself around. Oh god, I'm already dizzy. And the crafting system adds a lot to the game. I'm really glad that it's in there. I think it was a good decision by them to go for. And I'm happy that they did. I don't really want to use 2 bullet weapons at the same time, especially because the railgun takes a lot of bullets per shot. But as long as I keep a different weapon in my inventory that I can at least switch to later if I need to, I think I'll be good. If I actually survive that long. Alright. So yeah, the game is a nice, hardcore experience that hasn't really been delivered in a long time. It reminds me of being a kid and playing Descent and getting lost in a good way in the levels and just kind of enjoying my way through. And Descent was another game that actually had a really nice kind of arsenal to it. This game has a lot of old school sensibilities and kind of wrapped in a new school package, by which I mean it's got a lot of old school ideas, the whole 6 Degrees of Freedom thing, the art style, the way the story is told, even you have like colored key cards and things like that. It's all pretty old school, but this whole roguelite idea is something that is, I think, one of the perfect things if you're going to choose something from the new school to add to the game to make it a bit different. That was probably the best choice they could have gone for, and it's paid off. You know, the guys know what they're doing, it seems like, and they really they care about what they're producing, and that definitely shows. So this is Sublevel Zero. I'm really, really liking it. I think I'm going to be playing a lot more of it. I hope they continue to support it. I have a feeling they will, and I'm glad that the delay happened. It seems to have paid off in spades in terms of polish. I've not encountered any major bugs or crashes or anything like that. I'm on Windows 10, so that's always something to worry about at first if, you know, there's not really too many incompatibilities, but you never know. So yeah, I'm really happy with it. I'm glad it's finally out, and I'm really glad to be able to cover it. And thank you, by the way, to Mastertronic for actually providing me with a key. So yeah, I'm gonna continue to play the crap out of this, and I really, really hope, 1, I get less bad, I died, and 2, they continue to add more to it. I'd like to see the arsenal fleshed out a lot more weapons, and more crafting recipes and things, and maybe even some extra support down the line. So, oh, I unlocked something! A new Nanocart. Increases boost ram damage and reduces damage from exploding enemies, but decreases overall speed. That might be a fun thing to use. So, Sublevel Zero by Sigtrap Games. It is available right now on Steam for $15, a very reasonable price, in my opinion, and if you get it within the next 2 days, if you order now, you can get it for around $12. So, yeah, there you go. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.